Hi, today's video is part of my ongoing series about cleaning the controls in NuTone remote speaker stations. What you're looking at here is a NuTone model N485, which is an apartment house intercom speaker. This speaker would be located usually one in each apartment, and it's a very simple station. These were in production from the early 1980s through about 2005, and they're used exclusively with the model 478 apartment house amplifier. An apartment house speaker is a simple speaker. You have only three controls. You have a push to talk button, you have a push to listen button, and you have a door release button. And the door release button can activate either door number 1 or door number 2. On some 478 apartment house systems, the control amplifier will choose which door to unlock based on where the visitor pushed the button at the entry panel. So it doesn't matter in those type of systems which way you move the door lock release switch, it will unlock the appropriate door where the visitor is. The way these type of systems operate, a visitor would come up to the entry door of the building and push your apartment button, and you'll hear a ringtone through the speaker. You would push the push to talk button to ask who's there, and then push the listen button to hear the reply. If it's someone you're expecting, you can move the door release switch and it'll unlock the door, and the visitor can enter the lobby and then come on up to your apartment. So these are very long-lasting speakers. They're made very well, and it's not uncommon for them to, after they're installed, to go 15 or 20 years before they require any type of maintenance, but eventually they will. So here's what goes wrong with them. You have basically two types of problems. Due to dirt and dust and other environmental contaminants that happen inside apartments or inside anyone's home, the push-button switches can become gummy and sticky, and when you push them down, they won't always want to pop back up to the at-rest position on their own as they should. And what you have to consider is that if you're in an apartment building and there are 45 other units in the building, all 45 speakers are connected to the same system. So a problem with a single station in your apartment perhaps can affect how the other 45 speakers will work in the building. So they're all tied together. They're part of one large system, even though you only operate your speaker individually. So a push button that doesn't return to the at-rest position can basically lock up or jam up the entire system, and the entry tones may not work. People in other apartments won't be able to talk or listen to the entry door. They won't be able to release the door lock at the lobby door. And those are the kind of problems that cause someone to call me, and I go out and do a service call. Why does this happen? Just from normal dirt and dust and things that happen over the years. What do you do about it? You do the same thing you do with all intercom speakers. You clean switches. So let's take a look at the back. The back of the station is very simple. You have one standard NuTone 3.5-inch speaker cone attached to the back of the grill, and you have one circuit board with the switches all on the opposite side. On all N485 speakers, there are 5 wires that are attached to the speaker. You have control, ground, audio 2, audio 1, and ring. The control, ground, audio 1, and audio 2 are common wires that run throughout the entire building and the entire system. Everyone that has one of these speakers in their apartment uses the same control, ground, audio 1, and audio 2 wires. They're common throughout the building. The only wire that's individual or special to your apartment is the ring wire. The ring wire is the other end of the wire that comes from the button at the lobby directory. So when someone pushes apartment number 4, which happens to be where you live, it makes a connection to this individual ring connection, and only you hear the tone through the speaker. The easiest way to clean these speakers is to remove the circuit board. If you're going to do that, you have to be very, very careful that when you disconnect the wires, that you know where they go. You'll have different colors of wires typically underneath each screw. The best way to do this is either to make a diagram of this board, indicate where the screws are, and then mark which color wire goes under which screw. It could be black and black with a white stripe, and red with a white stripe. I've removed the 5 screws that hold the circuit board to the back of the grill, and to remove this you simply tilt it up and wiggle it out of its spot, and if I turn it over you'll see it's actually a fairly simple board. All you have on here are 2 plunger switches for the talk and listen functions, a large spring-loaded sliding switch for the door release, and you have these little blue things. The little blue things are resistors. What goes wrong with these? Well, contaminants and dirt and dust get down inside the plunger switches and it causes them to become sticky and gummy, so much so that even the tension of the built-in spring isn't enough to always cause them to return to the at-rest position, and that causes operational problems with the system. So now I'm going to clean the plunger switches. I'll take my rag because we don't want to get overspray all over the lady's apartment. And I'm going to use my Deoxit D5 cleaner that I use on all NuTone switches. And I'm going to spray a little bit into the top between the body and the plunger portion of the switch. And then I'm going to work it back and forth. And it's often best to do this on both sides. And if your switch is really sticky, after you've sprayed it and operated it a half a dozen or a dozen times, you should feel that it will improve and it will become more springy and be easier to push. And the action when it pops back out will become sharper and stronger. So there's the first one, and then we'll do the larger one. And that works very well now. We'll also give the slide switch for the door release a little spray. These are a very large, beefy sort of switch, and they don't usually have many problems, but since you have it apart, you might as well clean it a little bit anyway. And that's really all there is to it. It's very simple. Let's wipe off the board to get all the excess overspray cleaned up. And then we'll go ahead and put this back in the faceplate. I'm going to go ahead and put the screws back in, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about apartment intercom. Alright, I've reinstalled the board and put the 5 mounting screws back in. I referred to the picture I took with my smartphone to make sure that I have the wires hooked up correctly. And after you do all of that, you can operate it some more. If you have a helper, you can send them down to your entry directory and they can ring your apartment and you can talk and listen to them and release the door to let them back into the lobby. It's always good to check the operation of a station after you've disconnected and reconnected it. Let's talk about the #1 service call on these type of speakers. The #1 service call that we get from building owners or management companies have to do basically with the intercom system only operating in one direction. The most normal complaint is the person in the apartment can hear the sounds at the entry, but they're not able to talk to the person at the entry. And why is that? Well, the way a NuTone 478 apartment house intercom system operates is by flipping the direction of the conversation from talk to listen with a relay inside the control unit. So how does the relay know when to energize and flip the conversation from incoming to outgoing. Well, if you recall earlier when we were looking at the circuit board, there were the little blue resistors on the board. And a 478 system is actually a good design. It's very simple. By moving the switch, you're making a connection with the switch, but you're also putting the little blue resistor in line in the circuit, and the amplifier sees the added resistance in the circuit, and that tells it to flip the relay to the on position, which will flip the direction of the conversation. So what does this have to do with service calls? When you have apartment house speakers with dirty switches equal more resistance, and it's unintended resistance. It's not supposed to be there. It wasn't there when the speaker was manufactured. It gradually built up in the switches over time because they get dirty. And this is what I call an additive problem. If you had a building with one speaker in the entire building and it had some added resistance in the switch because it was dirty, it really wouldn't cause a problem because it's only one switch with a little bit of extra resistance. But if you have a building that has 45 speakers and each speaker has a little bit of added resistance because of dirty switches, and you add up all of those little bits of added resistance, it's enough to throw the system out of alignment, and it sees too much resistance and it acts as if someone is pushing the button down all the time. And that's what causes most problems on apartment house intercom systems. And it's a matter of someone going through and cleaning all of the switches in all of the apartments. Usually this only has to be done once every maybe 15 years or so. If you do a thorough job, it's not much of a problem at all. I've installed a lot of 478 apartment house systems when they were new, and it's not uncommon to go 10 years or more before you get the very first service call because some switches might need to be cleaned or there's some small problem. These are very long-lasting speakers, and the switches are a higher quality and better switch than what was used in residential systems because they know that they have to last a long time, and they do. So that's all there is to cleaning apartment house intercom speakers. If your building has problems, send someone out, have them go through, use the proper type of cleaner, use something like the Deoxit D5. It'll dissolve the corrosion, improve the contact, protect the surfaces. Everything they say on here is true. This little can costs about $14, and this will last the average person a lifetime. So get the right type of cleaner, go through, clean your speakers carefully, and you'll be good to go. I hope you found this video to be helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. If you think this video would be helpful to other people, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribing will raise our rankings on YouTube, which means it'll be easier for other people to find our videos. Thank you very much for watching. See you on the next video.